I've spoken at length about the need to restore the Justice Department's independence and integrity. As nominees for senior Justice Department leadership, Ms. Monaco and Ms. Gupta will be charged with restoring the faith of the American public in the rule of law. Swiftly confirming these nominees is critical. We have many challenges facing America. To name one, last week, this country witnessed another horrific mass shooting in Atlanta. We do not yet have a clear picture of the shooter's motive, but we know that 8 people were murdered, including 6 Asian American women. This massacre took place at a time when anti-AAPI hate crimes are spiking. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, which the Trump administration unfortunately used to promote anti-Asian rhetoric, Asian Americans have reported nearly 3,800 hate-related incidents in all 50 states. Earlier this week, we saw the senseless killing of 10 people at a Boulder, Colorado supermarket. 10 lives cut short by gun violence that continues to plague our nation. 10 families that will be without loved ones at the dinner table. I don't know if any of you heard the interview on NPR of the daughter of one of the victims who was scheduled to have a baby soon. She was so happy that her father was alive to escort her down the aisle for her wedding last year. It was so touching. Of course, the loss of life of the policeman, Eric Talley, the first to respond on the scene. He was an extraordinary man who decided at age 40 to give up intellectual IT, I should say, technology, and go into the field of law enforcement. He leaves behind a wife and 7 children. These horrific attacks are a sober reminder that the public must have confidence in the Justice Department ability to combat the threats facing us. Based on these nominees' records, I have no doubt they are up to the task. They both have extensive experience addressing hate crimes as well as combating white supremacy and other domestic threats. Ms. Monaco has a long record of leadership on the government's response to national security risk, including domestic terror attacks and mass shooting. In her first weeks on the job as President Obama's Deputy National Security Advisor, she was tasked with coordinating the response to a terror attack in her own hometown at the Boston Marathon bombing. Such a role requires constant preparedness and deals with the highest of stakes. This experience on part of Ms. Monaco will serve the department well. As I have noted previously, she has the experience at nearly every level of the Department of Justice. This breadth of experience is rare and makes arguably Ms. Monaco the most qualified individual ever nominated to serve as Deputy Attorney General. She understands the inner workings of the department, well positioned to boost the morale of the professionals, and she will certainly hit the ground running on day one. Vanita Gupta is an exceptionally well-qualified person to be Associate Attorney General. At the time of her hearing, she already had strong support of numerous conservatives, Grover Norquist, Michael Chertoff, Mark Holden. Others are publishing items in the conservative-leaning newspapers to say that they too believe she is the right person for the job. Since then, the list has grown. Larry Thompson, who served as Deputy Attorney General under President George W. Bush, Tom Coleman, Republican member of Congress for 16 years, representing Missouri, Trevor Potter, a Republican commissioner and chairman of the Federal Election Commission. All of them have endorsed Vanita Gupta for this job in no uncertain terms. Her extensive support from prominent conservatives is not an aberration. It is the natural result of the fact that she has worked across the partisan divide throughout her entire career. And just reflect for a moment what a challenge that is in the controversial world of civil rights, and yet she came out with this dramatic commitment by conservatives to support her publicly. Unfortunately, too many Republicans in the Senate refuse to acknowledge that fact and continue, unfortunately, to spread baseless stories about her. And so I feel the need to briefly address several at this point. A number of my colleagues continue to falsely claim that Ms. Gupta supports defunding the police. Ms. Gupta has repeatedly made it clear this is not the case. I'm not going to read the quotes from the Executive Director of the Fraternal Order of Police, Jim Pasco, the President of the National Sheriff's Association, or the Federal Officer Association. I just wanted to ask you to think over this for a moment. If Ms. Gupta wanted to defund the police, Would she have the support of the Fraternal Order of Police, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the National Sheriff's Association, the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, and many other groups? Of course not. Some of my Republican friends have criticized Ms. Gupta for opposing a number of President Trump's judicial nominees while she led the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. I'm sure the names Jeff Sessions and John Ashcroft ring a bell with the members of this committee. Both of those nominees became Attorney General despite having strongly opposed numerous judicial nominees. Now, some of my Republican colleagues have criticized Ms. Gupta for not sticking to her past position on drugs. Let's be clear, Ms. Gupta has never advocated that all drugs should be legal, as one of my colleagues on this committee incorrectly claimed in questions for the record. Ms. Gupta did write 9 years ago that she favored decriminalizing simple possession of small amounts of marijuana and other drugs. At our hearing, Ms. Gupta was completely forthright in explaining that she has changed her mind over the years on decriminalizing drug possession, due in part to her own family's experience with opioid addiction. If changing your mind on the legalization or criminalization of drugs disqualifies you for public office, I would remind my colleagues that over the last 10 years, there has been a dramatic shift in American public opinion and in the laws of our states when it comes to the issues of drugs. There currently are only 6 states that make marijuana illegal: Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Senator Sass's state of Nebraska. 35 states in the period of time when we are questioning whether Ms. Gupta may have changed her mind decided to make marijuana legal for medical purposes. 35 states. Other states reached out to decriminalize it, many of them, and even 11 made this recreational in nature, and my state is one of them. The point I'm trying to get to is to say Ms. Gupta may have changed her mind on drugs reflects what's happening in America. And to say that that disqualifies her for office may disqualify a lot of us who were part of that conversation. My Republican colleagues asked Ms. Gupta approximately 800 written questions for the record. 800. The last nominee for Associate Attorney General, Rachel Brand, who may have been from the state of Iowa, if I'm not mistaken, Rachel Brand, was asked 110 questions. 800 versus 110. I would note that 800 questions are substantially more than Democrats asked Amy Coney Barrett when she was up for a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. In responding to these many questions, Ms. Gupta went above and beyond what she was required to disclose. She provided details of the assets of 2 family trusts. She went the extra mile to prove that she was willing to make all of her financial holdings clear to everyone. What a contrast to a former president who never disclosed his income tax returns. She also disclosed information about donors to the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights and its 501c3 affiliate, the Leadership Conference Education Funds. My colleagues have supported numerous nominees who were not nearly so forthcoming. One final observation. I think I know what the problem is. A woman with this strong a resume who is being opposed by so many on the other side, I think she's touched a nerve by talking about voting rights, because I believe that's an issue that is timely, controversial, and maybe way too partisan. Ms. Gupta has spent a significant portion of her career advocating for the right to vote. There can be little doubt that many of the attacks leveled against her flow from that one simple truth. Far too many on the other side are set on curbing voting rights rather than protecting and strengthening them. We should make it easier for all Americans to vote, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Attorney General Garland has made it clear he needs a team at the Justice Department. He supports these nominees because they bring expertise and experience far different than his own. Lisa Monaco and Vanita Gupta are both incredibly well qualified and ready to continue to serve our nation. We should give Attorney General Garland the team that he needs to enforce our nation's laws.
In addition to lying to the committee under oath and her connection with this precursor chemical that's used for heroin production, we now have a nominee who's been nominated to the 3rd highest office in the Department of Justice. As Senator Grassley pointed out, she will supervise the civil division of the Department of Justice. What has the Department of Justice done in response to the opioid epidemic over recent years? Well, it's sued a number of opioid manufacturers in this country for the mayhem, the death and destruction and misery that they've caused to the American people in each of our states and all across the country. I believe Ms. Gupta's deception, her lack of remorse, her dishonesty when it comes to answering straightforward questions of the committee disqualifies her for the office of Associate Attorney General. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. Serious charges, and they deserve to be answered. Ms. Gupta is a shareholder of Aventur. She has no role in their corporate decisions at all. Per her ethics agreement, she has already agreed to recuse herself from any matters related to Aventur. At her confirmation hearing, she informed the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, this committee, that she will divest all stock that she controls. In addition, with respect to the assets of the trust that she does not control, it is the intention of the trustee to divest the assets of the trust at the next open window period, which at this time is expected to begin on April 30th, 2021. I am not an expert on acetic anhydride, but I will tell you this. Due to the potential for misuse of acetic anhydride outside of the regulated supply chain, Aventur announced in September 2020 they are stopping all sales of the product in Mexico and have properly discarded all inventory of acetic anhydride in Mexico. Despite the statement made by the senator, according to Aventur, reported in Bloomberg, the company never sold acetic anhydride to any distributor or retailer who was not registered with Mexico's health regulator. I'm going to mispronounce the Spanish word. It looks like COFEPRIS, COFEPRIS. The company informed distributors and retailers in early September 2020. Bloomberg also reported that Aventur is not the target of any criminal probe. So, building a case that this woman is somehow responsible for a corporate decision that she is not part of, there's no basis for this, in fact, and I'm sorry that the senator has made that charge without any evidence to the contrary. And let me say a word about, we can go back and forth about what she may have said 8 or 9 years ago on decriminalization. I will just tell you that based on what I've heard from her, she was unequivocal in her statement that she was opposed to the decriminalization of all drugs because of a family experience which occurred, and she didn't go into detail, nor did we ask. The point I tried to make in my opening statements is how many of us have been party to conversations over the last 10 years where questions were raised about decriminalization, legalization of drugs? Virtually all of us. And in the states we represent, with the exception of the state of Nebraska, Senator Sass represents, decisions have been made throughout that period of time as to changing the laws on decriminalization and legalization, whether it's medical marijuana in 35 states, whether it's legalization in another 11 states. Those things have been happening. To say that she should be held responsible because she may have changed a position on drugs over a period of 10 years, how many of us have not changed a position on any major issue, and certainly on this issue, which we continue to debate? I'm struggling to understand the fierce opposition of the Republicans to this nominee. She is extraordinary. She has the support of law enforcement groups any one of us would be proud to have, and yet she continues to be labeled as soft on crime or wanting to defund police, and there's no truth to that whatsoever.